Hello, I'm Dynasty Mirror.
Needs to be about right there.
Okay, right there, okay.
Imagine you said, was she angry because she didn't give her dick? I'm like, what do you mean
recording,
dick?
We're recording.
It's okay, it's okay. We get this
We're
part. This
adults.
all gonna be part of the. Hey, this gonna be all part of the video. It's okay.
That's what you mean. I didn't give her dick. It's not like this. It's like this.
Yeah.
You say dick, especially when you're talking about me. You say, did you give her?
Wrist or elbow?
No, like.
Okay.
I don't exaggerate. I don't have up to this one. But it's like this. I know for sure. It's like this.
Mr. Kuti, Seun Kuti.
What's
Seun
up,
Kuti.
Sorry, I'm frustrated because I pulled my hip. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm trying to fix it. It's just the outside here. Old age.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this is Dynasty Mirror, Search for a Guru, and I'm with Mr. Seun Kuti here in Atlanta, Georgia. Had the opportunity to go to your concert last night and check it out. So, you know, we were chopping it up yesterday, just a little bit, and we were speaking on Nigerian politics.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something that was very telling. I'm like, man, I wish I would have had my camera when you brought this up. Nigerians often, not just Nigerians, but Africans, even African Americans, we tend to blame our politicians for everything. But
Rightly
said,
so. Rightly so.
Rightly so. Okay.
Yes.
But you said something that should be up to the Nigerian people,
Of course.
to change Nigeria, not just solely politicians.
Yeah, like, you know, I always say it's an 85-15 ratio.
Okay.
The politicians have 85% of the responsibility because they actually they are paid, you know, with public money, and they have a duty to the people.
Mm-hmm.
But the 15% where we are lacking as well is that we do not put their feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to save. Everybody believes one Nigerian guy, one American. Like, you know, everybody just followed Obama because he said the right things. The way we followed Buhari in Nigeria because he said he's bringing change, and you know, the way now the people follow Trump because he said he was going to build the wall and drain the swamp, and you know, because we always believe in this Messiah complex that is put in us through religion. Most people in this world are indoctrinated into a certain religion or the other. So from a young age, your mind is filled with the fact that somebody is coming to save you.
Right.
You know, so be it spiritually, physically, politically, socially, that's what everybody's expecting. Most people cannot even live alone. They need a partner to complete them, to save their love life.
Right.
You know, so for me, I believe that no one person can fix Nigeria.
Right.
The process of fixing any African country today starts with the people. We as a people now have to realize that, okay, if these politicians don't work for us, how do we make sure our country benefits us? You know, only the people of Nigeria or of any oppressed nation can free that nation. Not one president, not one governor, it is a people's solution. You know, the people themselves have to be involved in the process. You know, that's why it's important that I will only take politicians seriously when they really invest their time and resources in politicizing the majority of the people, or even the totality of the people, creating a highly politicized society, investing in that grassroots political educational interaction. You see all Nigerian presidents, you see them, governors, ministers, watch the news, CNN. Before the international community calls one meeting in Davos, they are there.
Right.
Before they call one meeting in Switzerland, they are there. UK, they are there. Ask these same people to go 10 kilometers
Right.
to have a town hall meeting with their own people. They have all sorts of excuses.
Excuses.
We are busy. The house is on fire. I have stomach ache.
I have to go to
My
America.
kids have to go to school.
Yeah.
I have to go to Davos.
Davos.
For the economic forum, you know. So because they're not interested in politicizing the people, you know, because they understand that if people are politically ignorant, it gives them an opportunity to also get away with their own oppressive manipulations and actions, you know. So definitely, I think that is what is missing now in the political discussion, you know, and that is what I'm investing myself in trying to create in our society, you know, that discussion and that organization that is going to politicize the people of Nigeria. Because I always say also that, you know, do we really know what development looks like in Africa?
I think we have a blueprint. of other
Yeah.
countries, but from what I'm noticing, don't take this personal.
No, I don't.
When I go to Africa, I see colonial structures,
Mm-hmm.
and the Chinese are coming to renovate it.
You're right.
So I think that's like been
And
the
build their own
standard
too.
and build their own too. I think that's been like the standard kind of, and,
Yes.
and a lot of
But you see, the thing about it is, I always say to people, like when we have our Niger okay, quick plug, NigerResistance.org, check it out, quick plug, so I always say to people, like when we're discussing Nigeria and why it is the way it is and what we can do, I say to people, do you believe that the British amalgamated Nigeria, this Southern and Northern Protectorate in 1914, creating Nigeria for the benefit of Nigerian people or for the benefit of the people trapped in that geolocation?
I would say no.
Exactly. So Nigeria was created strictly for the benefit of the British, and that is what is in the DNA of Nigeria as is, and nothing has been done institutionally, politically, or socially to change that DNA, or to alter it, or to completely break it down and create something new. I don't know, whatever it is. So you find that in our country, our government continues to say every year that we are growing record amount of crops, but yet food prices go up because the food is not to feed the people of that country.
You guys are importing rice.
Yeah, no, not anymore.
Not anymore?
I
Okay,
think
okay.
but smuggling happens, but
Yeah,
the government is trying to, but that's not even the point. Rice is more expensive. Even local rice is more expensive than minimum wage.
Wow.
Because our food is priced internationally, because these people are growing it for outsiders. I mean, we don't have rubber factories, we grow rubber. We don't have chocolate factories, we grow cocoa. Why? So we can sell it. This is arable land that should feed the people,
Right.
being used to make other industries work in other countries. Because
Right.
that is what Nigeria was made for.
So the chocolate goes to Europe, comes back Hershey's.
Yes,
Or goes to
exactly.
America, comes back Hershey's,
The soil rotation was designed by the British to allow for cash crops to thrive. And it's still these cash crops that we basically pour the majority of our farming resources into. Because all the elites in Nigeria also look out. Because they want to sell in dollars. They want to make they want to secure the bag.
Secure the bag, yeah.
As they say, So it's not really, so Nigeria has to be made to look now inward. Nigeria, all the roads lead to the sea. For the resources to go out, everything leads outward. So Nigeria has to be restructured. I don't like to use the word restructured, but recreated, if that's,
So you think separate countries, or?
I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. Just because it hasn't been done yet doesn't mean it's not the solution.
Okay.
Even Nkrumah has said, well, nobody has liberated any African country. There will be no Ghana. So
Right.
the fact that it hasn't happened before doesn't mean it is not the solution. It doesn't mean we should not explore that. Yeah, it could be different countries. It could be the same country, but we have to believe what we are saying, because right now Nigeria is one country, and you hear all our politicians say things like, the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable.
Oh, wow.
Nigeria is one country. That's what they say. I always say that is coon speak. For what the white man has put together, that's coon speak. For what the white man has put together, let no black man put asunder.
All right.
So everything is negotiable in terms of African states as it is.
Of course.
So I believe that we have to make Nigeria look towards Nigerian people, and that must come from the politicization of the people. See, if our resources and Nigeria was created to rob the people of that location, of their resources and their labor, and that is what is still doing till today. If the elite of Nigeria have not articulated that to the people, then they are also a part of the problem. So now that brings us to the Nigerian professional class, the educated. There are more Nigerian doctors in the state of New York alone than the whole of Nigeria combined.
I read that. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of Nigerians will say they'll blame the politicians, and then leave or immigrate to America.
Yes.
And my thing is, you have Nigeria, you have your own country, one of the richest countries on the planet. To those who are afraid to confront the politicians and rather immigrate, like, what are your...
Okay, well, for me, economic mercenaries, as I call them, need to revamp or reanalyze their priorities. You know, Europe and America, I could say, is good to, you know, come look for greener pastures.
Right.
The same Europe and America says to black people, go back to your country.
Right.
So what does that mean?
So you're saying a lot of the immigrants, not to be decisive, you're saying a lot of the immigrants are economic mercenaries.
Yeah.
So it's just about the money.
Yeah.
It's not really about bettering Nigeria. And they're saying
it's a personal thing, because the world is individualistic. You know, it is, you know, not for self.
Well, they will say they're bettering Nigeria by sending money through Western Union to a family.
They are feeding their family. They're not bettering Nigeria, because okay, for me, to better Nigeria will not mean, okay, fine, you've gone out to work and you are a taxi driver in Europe for 20 years. Right. You've made some money, so you are richer than the average Nigerian now, with just a taxi driving job in Europe for 20 years, or America. Right. So do you come back to Nigeria and serve Nigerians as a taxi driver or create a taxi company? No. You immediately want to use their wealth to become a political force. So we have ex-taxi drivers like, what's his name? Sorry. No problem. What's his name? No, not him. What's his name? I'm going to remember his name. Fani Kayode. Okay. We used to drive cabs in the UK. He's in Africa now. Okay. He's in Nigeria. He was Minister of Aviation. So that's what you serve as a doctor, or even a doctor, you know, come and build a hospital, treat us too. The way you've treated the Europeans and the Americans for 25 years, as you quick to say. But no, when they come to, they want to Minister of Health, or Commissioner for Health, or governors, so nobody really wants to come back and develop the nation. So for me, that's why I understand them to be economic mercenaries. You know, and Europe and America use the media to encourage this behavior. You know, that individualistic idea of capitalism. Oh, you've done good for yourself.
The American dream.
Yeah.
Get your money, get your house.
Exactly. Yeah. Get yours, right. You know, but we as motherland people, we cannot be about the individual. We have to be about our community. We have to be collective. So who is passing that message across? What code do we have amongst ourselves to encourage that to happen? You know, so how do we develop a real nation out of a country that was created to oppress us? Right. Because Nigeria was created by the British to oppress the people of that place. The only way to make it our country is to decide to develop it. Make it our goal to develop it and create a new culture. You know, because if you study Frantz Fanon, you find out that culture is important. And how do you find culture? How do you create culture in a nation? Because Nigeria has no culture. What is the Nigerian culture? Well, I'm not talking of ethnic cultures.
So I'm thinking ethnic culture.
Exactly, that's not the national culture.
Yoruba, Igbo.
Yeah. American exceptionalism is the culture of America. What is the culture of Nigeria? There's no national culture. We are fourth-class British. We speak English. We wear suit and tie. We are, fourth-class British citizens. Right. If we accept this Nigerian identity, we have to borrow the British culture and not even be proper British, because we even need visa to go to England. Right. You understand? So we are like fourth-class Commonwealth. There's no national culture, and global white supremacists love that when we are cultureless people, because what is a man without culture? Nothing. A savage. Right. And there's nothing racist like more than saying that black people are savages. So as long as you embrace this cultureless identity, you live a life without a code.
So the people who have the Nigerian diaspora who are successful in America, successful in the UK, again, they're making their money, but they will tell you that Nigerian politics has made it impossible almost for them to even come back.
Yeah, but the problem I have is not really with them. It is with the governments that create the avenue for them to abandon their responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? Right. You see, if those doctors are good enough to practice in America and Europe, and they become top surgeons, top doctors, like we have a lot of them, it means they're highly intelligent people. Right. So if they didn't have the avenue to leave Nigeria, their intelligence enough and their talent is enough to will them to agitate, that the system matches their ambition. So Europe and America, they are very adept at taking those people that will agitate for a better Africa out of Africa and give them their own jobs. Right. in Europe and America.
Very high paying job.
Very high paid.
Yeah.
You know, they spend billions. Europe and America spend billions. The American embassy, they have their, I don't know what they call it, the British
Lottery.
one is American Visa Lottery. The British, they have the British Council, French Cultural Center, Goethe Institute. They spend billions encouraging the best of us to leave our country and settle in their countries.
Yeah.
You understand?
I understand.
So, but where's the African answer to this attack?
They'll say that the wages aren't high enough to compensate them in Africa. That's where they go.
Yeah, so fine.
So the answer to them would be money.
Yeah, so if the answer is money, are they putting the money towards community development or personal development?
Personal.
Exactly. So whose responsibility is it? If they were living in the country, for sure, their community would matter to them. They would want to see the community get better. Money is not the answer to everything. You know, I mean, with all the profits that the corporations make, I mean, Amazon is making this billion, the 1 trillion, this 700 billion. Is the earth thriving? With all the profit that the earth is generating today,
Right.
can we say that the earth itself is thriving?
No. Oh, it is. Well, the earth itself is going to be
Earth
there
itself
striving. Yeah.
It's thriving.
The earth is striving. The people
The
might
earth
not
is not
be
thriving.
Okay.
We are in the brink of an ecological disaster.
Okay.
Global warming is real.
Okay.
Even I know they call it global warming, and I think global warming is a misnomer. Global warming is kind of making it, you know, mild. Then people think it's something that is happening later, you know. But we're in the midst of ecological homicide, ecocide by the elites of this world. The amount of fishes that have been extinct from the sea, the amount of the ocean that is polluted, you know, the solar ice caps melting and things like that. The earth itself cannot sustain the profit.
Okay.
Forget the humans. Human
Okay.
beings are being, you know, 80% of humanity is living in hunger.
Mm-hmm.
So that one we've been defeated. Now I'm talking about the earth itself, Mother Nature cannot sustain the profits. The Amazon is almost depleted.
True. Okay. Okay, I got you.
You understand what I'm saying? So the earth itself cannot sustain profit. No matter what we try to tell ourselves, no matter how we try to paint it, you know. So when people tell me, oh, because they pay somebody, he's making money to take care of his family, is good enough, because he makes personal profit, is good enough reason for him to abandon his own duty to his country. Doesn't make any sense. Because what I will say to him is, without the struggles of your ancestors who died and sacrificed, you can't be a doctor in an American hospital. So we motherland people cannot think like everybody else. You know, everybody else, they were invited to the table of capitalism.
True.
Asians, Europeans, Americans, they invite themselves. We as African people, motherland people, every single step we have taken in this system has been paid for by blood. To get on a bus, to drive a bus, to get in a cab, to sit in a restaurant, to go to school, to vote, to be doctors, to be lawyers, whatever it is that you think you are doing today, your ancestors have paid a blood price.
And are you talking about as far as on the Black American or all over?
All over the world.
Okay.
Without Nkrumah in Africa, we are nothing but colonized subjects who could not rise above the second rank of civil service in our own countries, in Africa. It was the independence, the anti-colonial movement, colonialist movement of Africa that allowed us as black people in Africa to be able to sit down in our own homes.
Wow.
They used to have boys' quarters where you sit. Lagos is still designed according to the colonial masters, even though we have their replacements now living on the island. The design of the island and how we live on the, I mean, all this is set up by colonialists. So there was the colonial struggle to even make us free in Africa, you know. So even when people come here, there's a division. They come here, they think they're different from African Americans.
I was going to get to the next question, but keep going. I'm asking one more question.
I'm like, you get here, you think Americans are happy to see you in their university.
Right.
Did African Americans just stroll into universities in America? Somebody paid the blood price. So when you sit down and say because you are making money, you don't have a responsibility to your people, you are spitting on the graves of all those people who died to make it possible for you to have that, and you are too much of a coward also to pay it forward.
Say it again. You got to repeat that again.
And I mean, if you ignore the sacrifices of the people that was paid for you to be in your position, you know, it means you are spitting on the grave of all the people that died to make that happen. Not only that, you are too much of a coward to pay it forward.
Mm-hmm. Which leads to my next question, last question. When I was cleaning up over here to set my camera up, I noticed you had a book by Amos Wilson.
One of my great teachers.
Amos Wilson, a Black American.
Yes, Dr. Amos Wilson.
The conversation is starting to come up now, not to be divisive, that Pan-Africanism is not being reciprocated. A lot of people, Black Americans, ADOS, descendants of slaves, feel as if, no.
You people are not descendants of slaves.
Okay, go ahead.
You are descendants of, you are African people. Anyway, go on.
Okay.
This ADOS thing is crazy.
You think it's crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So they feel as if.
And why are you starting your history from slavery? Like,
well,
we've decided that we are not. Our history didn't start with that. Why are we?
I think this is the problem. I'm gonna tell you what the problem is. So I saw a lady in Gambia, British lady, black British lady, relocated to Gambia. Happy to be back in Gambia. I'm African. But the issue that a lot of African Americans are running into when they go to Africa is they're not treated as Africans or looked at as Africans. They're looked at as Americans. And then through slavery, chattel slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, war on drugs, Black Americans have always been engaging with Africa. But a lot of Black Americans feel like it's not being reciprocated. So when I go to Africa, I'm not even considered Africa. But as you just said, an African immigrant could get into a major university and not realize the blood sacrifice or blood equity that the Black American has put in to make it possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you said some are even cowards to pay it forward. Which a lot
you have to understand that a lot of Africans that come here and can afford this education and this lifestyle are elites.
Elite, okay.
And there are no people, there is no group in Africa more in cahoots with our oppressors than the African elites. I was going to go into the African professionals before we diverted,
Sorry, okay.
The African banker is no different from the racist white banker. I always tell my brothers and sisters all over the world, to understand what we are going through, we need analysis. That's why I love Amos Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand analysis. We have to do away with this cultural aesthetics and aesthetics. Do away with it. Let's go into analysis. All the banks in Nigeria are Black owned, and we still can't get loans. The way you can get loans here, and you say it's because the bankers are racist. No. It's the banks that are racist themselves. The institution of banking. Mm-hmm. The way cops kill Black people here is the way they kill us in Africa. So as soon as we can understand this and see how we are globally going through the same oppression by the same people. So many of these elites, they are the ones that are prominent and on the media and they can spread their narrative of division. Now, people like me that understand our connection are sidelined. So just because we're not in the mainstream doesn't mean we don't exist.
Right.
And I can say for a fact that the majority of African people love all their brothers and sisters from all over the world. But the problem you have is that you interact more with African elites or elite wannabes.
Elite wannabes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People that want to be white. You have to understand that many people think to be free is to be white. Because whiteness is also economics. With a certain kind of money, you can, access whiteness.
Right, true.
So there are many people in Africa who are stuck in this narrative, thinking they have to be white to be free. But to be free is to be free. So we cannot confuse both. Okay. This ADOS narrative, for me, and saying, Africans don't pay. Every time we have achieved anything as motherland people, if you study in detail the technique and the strategy, you find out that the continent and the diaspora were united. Martin Luther King was united with Nkrumah. What do you think is the coincidence that Africa was being independent in the 60s and the civil rights movement was happening in the 60s too in America?
Right, and I think the argument is Martin Luther King was united with Nkrumah, but the descendants of MLK come to Ghana to get citizenship or be considered as African, and it's red tape and who are you?
Yes, of course, because we are not, because that's not Nkrumah's government. This is the government of the CIA I mean, why are we acting like we don't know that the CIA comes to Africa and subvert our politics? Is it because America is screaming Russia interfere in our politics? America interferes in the politics of all the countries in the world. If any country deserves to have their politics interfered with, it is America. We need in fact, I believe that the American election should be open to the world. Not just American citizens. The whole world has a right to vote in American election, because I don't think there's any one country in this world that affects the existence of other citizens of this world than the United States. There's nothing people don't do. This country they come to blow it, kill your president, arrest, change the president, overt and covert regime change all over the world. So when you come to Africa as it is today, I mean, the president of Nigeria in America, or was in England, being interviewed about Nigeria, said the Nigerian youth are lazy. When they're talking about social welfare, that why don't they? Oh, the Nigerian youth are lazy. They don't like to work. They don't. Same thing racists say about black people. Not white people, racist white people.
Right.
Will say about black people. Came out of the mouth of the president of the most populous black nation in the world. So when you say you have red tape, it's because people say African presidents. These are the Christian and Muslim presidents of Africa. It's the truth. You cannot tell me that you respect Africa when you don't revere anything in Africa. Your God is in the Middle East. You respect the Arabic custom more than African custom in any way, shape, or form. You are Jesus. I mean, so we have to really analyze. So yes, there will be red tape, and this is because your brothers in Africa are still under the same oppression as you here in America, but in blackface. You understand?
Okay.
In blackface, I mean, Buhari will easily do the job of Dick Cheney. You will easily be a Jeff Sessions. If you bring Buhari here and give him Jeff Sessions' job, the way he will throw you black people in prison, you will not even believe it. So all this, you can interchange any African ruler, maybe except Kagame today, with any oppressor here. I mean, Trump can easily be Museveni. Museveni can easily come and do Trump's job here against black people. I mean, some Mexicans, after all the training he has had with Ugandan people, you lose no sleep. So we have to understand that our struggle is still united in the front that we have the same oppressive systems, regimes, governments all over the world suppressing us as motherland people. So when the things are not being paid forward, this is not the wish of the majority of African people.
Right, that's what the ADOS
It is the
says.
wish of the elites. This is the wish of the elites. Just the way the elites, the African American elites, and their agenda do not tally with the agenda of the African American people.
True.
I always tell people that before I can talk to any rich African American, I'll tell them to go and bring his investment portfolio. Yeah, the people you work, the Jay-Z's, Beyonce's, Oprah's, all these, tell them to bring their investment portfolio. Let's see if they don't invest in prisons, in the prison industrial complex. Let's see if they don't have investment in the military industrial complex. Let's see if they don't have investment in every industry that oppresses black people because they make profit. In the hedge funds, on Wall Street, they have investments. Do they care?
No.
Exactly. So we, the people, have to understand that it is a narrative. We have to counter that narrative. We have to resist that narrative. We can no longer listen to what, the success of individual blacks, is not the success of our collective. We have to understand that our collective consciousness as motherland people also has to understand that.
So do you think Pan-Africanism and ADOS could coincide together?
I think there's only Pan-Africanism. I don't know what ADOS is. I cannot call any black person descendant of slaves, Come on. We've gone past that, We are bigger than slavery, and have for such a short period of our history, we cannot define ourselves by this,
The Africans in America.
We're good.
All I did was change Sims, though. I just said email and said, no, this is me, huh?
Okay, we're good. So where did we leave off? We left off on.
I was saying something about Dr. Amos Wilson. What was I saying?
We're from Africa, from
The
Negro.
last thing that you said was that Frantz Fanon said
Yeah.
the ultimate
goal of the black man.
Is to become a white man.
Okay.
Yeah. So as someone said, the ultimate goal of the black man is to become white.
So
Excuse me. So
last
Real quick.
was one.
as soon as you accept that you're black and everything that comes with black, the criminalization of the identity, the savage, you know, what else is your goal in life? Is to shed these negative stereotypes. So you go out of your way to show that you're not these things. But if you elevate to being African, those things don't apply, because then you understand what it means to be African. You understand the history of who you are. You understand where you're coming from. And you understand that those negative stereotypes do not define you, you know. And not only that, the negative stereotypes do not define you, but the values of your oppressor no longer validates you. And I think that is the ultimate freedom, you know.
So, last question on the ADOS, because this has been a very hot topic.
I know.
I somewhat agree with what they're saying is just because the type of immigrant, not just African, this is all across the board.
Let me tell you the thing about ADOS that I see.
Okay.
Basically, what they are saying is they've seen that there's a chunk of money or whatever that if African Americans struggle, they can get from the American government. And this time they don't want it to be for everybody. The way affirmative action and
exactly.
So for me, those kind of divisive ideologies just can't work. So especially when it's because you're trying to tap into some benefit of our oppressor. You know,
I can't even argue with that, and I support a lot of what the ADOS say, but what you just said, I can't.
You know, so for me, that's what it is. We need to find them. We have to find, you know, we are intelligent enough. We are genius enough to come up with amazing ways to unify all oppressed people. I'm not even talking about black people only. Yeah, our struggle is real. Our struggle is strong. How about the class struggle? Where's the class narrative? You know, in this ADOS, what's going to happen? Who is going to control the ADOS movement? See the rich blacks that have been controlling, you know, the African American narrative. Are these the same people that are going to, you know, lead this ADOS movement? You know, asking for reform and integration constantly. You know, instead of creating our own independent systems to recognize us for who we really are.
So you think ADOS are militant integrationists?
Yeah, of course. They are it's an integrationist movement. You know, in so many words and with such, you know. So for me, I just think we as motherland people should shun anything that divides us. Okay. That's the only same reason I don't support feminism, because it removes Africa. It creates tension between black African men and women. You understand? Here we have our internal issues. Definitely, there are internal issues between the sexes that must be confronted, that must be resolved. But we must find our own internal solutions to deal with that. We need the codes internally to deal with such things. You understand? But to now say, oh, that is enough reason for our men and women to become enemies instead of allies makes no sense to me, especially when the goal of the movement is to also, you know, claim more from this oppressive system.
Right.
You know, as I said on stage yesterday, and I'll repeat it right here, the goal of feminism is to turn women of all races into white men.
Repeat that again. People need to hear that.
The goal of feminism is to turn women of all races into white men. Because we want equality now. What do you want? Equality. When do you want it? Now. I said, equality to who? Is it to black men?
No, it's to white men.
They want to be shot on the street like dogs, thrown in jail, oppressed, harassed, stopped by. No, this is not the reason.
Right.
You know. So when they say equality, even when we black people say, that's why I don't support any movement that is looking for reform or change within the system. I only support movements that are seeking to replace this system. Because there's no joy for us, there's no future for poor working class people in this system. You know. So even when the integrationists say equality, to what? It's to white men. And I'm sorry, that is not what I want to aspire to.
So it makes sense why movements like the Me Too movement, they never go after white men.
Maybe they go after some.
Nah, barely.
Maybe they go after some, But I think there are a lot of male Me Too victims as well. Yeah, victimhood is victimhood. Yeah, everybody find justice. Me Too is a justice movement. Anybody can tap into it. This is not what I'm saying. I'm talking about not only social movements like Me Too, because Me Too is a social movement, changing the social perspective of the people towards rape and abuse of women. And I'm happy that it has come to the fore that many of the people that this society has elevated were picked because they are deliberately picked because they are sick. And their sickness, because they are sick, they can be easily controlled. They can be easily used as weapons against their people. We find out how because of this Me Too movement, everybody is really quiet because nobody wants their Me Too to pop up. So for me, any movement that is seeking for reform within this system, I don't think is viable because, as I said, we want to be equal to white men, but white men are not the epitome of man. The system that destroys our planet, keeps 80% of the people poor, is extremely violent towards black and brown people, exploitative, extractive. Is this what we want to aspire to? Even in Nigeria, a lot of young so-called activists are nothing but oppressors in waiting. They want to keep the system intact, so as soon as they can have access to it, they can continue to perpetuate what the system was meant for.
I hate. I hate, but just when I hear black and brown, I just get triggered. But
it was the truth, though.
Yeah, but it's just this is the issue. This is where we're
because for me, I see class too. This is something that we have to see as well. We have to really understand class, because in the class struggle is one of the genuine points of intersection between humanity. It's a real genuine point of intersection. It brought a lot of advance. In the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, labor unions were globalized, and the elites found a way to kill that. Today, money can move anywhere. Capital can move, and capital is nothing but the elite's way of manifesting their own vision. So, for example, the elites in Venezuela, when they want to protest, they don't need to go on the streets. They move their money out of Venezuela. They move their capital. They don't have to move. They don't have to move their labor. They move the capital. Nobody stops. They can send it anywhere. I'm in Nigeria. My money doesn't need visa to go anywhere. You understand? But we, the people, must always be checked, controlled. We can't move. We can't decide. We can't create our own vision. I can't say, okay, fine, 10,000 Nigerian people, let's get on the plane and go and assist our brothers in America. We need visas. We need this. But Bill Gates can say, oh, you need to make something happen in Nigeria. Okay, I'll send you $5 million. You understand?
So let me ask you, in Nigeria, in Africa, what are Africans currently doing, continental Africans currently doing to assist their brothers and sisters in America?
The best thing we can do is to try for Pan-Africanist governments in Africa, not Christian and Muslim governments in Africa. We need Pan-Africanist rulers in Africa. And I think the new Ghanaian president is on that tip, really extending.
I'm waiting. I hope it
really
happens.
Extending. Is trying to extend the olive branch. I think many Africans, South Africa, they are changing their own view as well. Even Nigeria is beginning to come around. So I think it's a gradual process, but it is not only political will. It's the natural calling of the land to his kids, to his children all over the world. Not only in the United States, but in Jamaica, in the Caribbean in general, in Brazil. Yoruba was just made an official language in Brazil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is not just the people, but the continent itself. Our ancestors are calling and making the cosmic effort also. So we just need to now add the physical effort to match what is going on cosmically today. So I really feel like we can't give up on unifying ourselves towards our emancipation. But the fact that we as motherland people go through the most immense of oppression and racism and subjugation.
Worse than black Americans.
Worse than black Americans.
You think so, really? Because it's just, they don't...
Listen,
Are you
And
for real?
I'll
What, on the
drop you-
motherland?
Like,
Yeah, I'll take you to Africa.
I'm always in Africa.
Yeah, but where are you?
see the
Where are you
levels of
staying?
Poverty that people.
Well, it's not.
Where are
that.
you staying in Africa?
I stay in Ife. I stay in Osogbo.
Where? You
I
should
stay in my
wait.
friend's house.
Hey,
I mean, my friend's house.
Yeah.
My thing is.
let me take you to some neighborhood. You won't last 1 week.
Well, let me take you to Skid Row in America.
All they have is guns. They might scare me with some guns, but I will survive if they didn't want to shoot me. Nobody will want to shoot you in these places I'll take you to. But I'm sure you want to go back to the States or at least move to my house in 3 days.
Well, I understand.
You'll be like, She'll take me out of, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
No, but what I'm saying is, the thing that, again, I've seen some parts in Africa. The worst I've seen is Skid Row in LA. I've not seen anything worse than Skid Row in LA.
And you've not been to some parts of it. You know, when you go to Africa too, Africans don't like showing the world.
No, I go everywhere. You see watch my page. I go everywhere. Ask John. I go everywhere. I've seen it. Nothing's worse than Skid. Have you been to Skid Row?
I've not been to Skid Row, but I've been to my family house in Freetown. We didn't have a toilet until 2014.
Go to Skid Row in LA and then tell me if it's
We
worse.
didn't have a toilet. People don't have shoes. They don't have running water. They don't have
Well,
electricity.
this is not, let's not do like who is suffering. I hate when we do like who is suffering the most.
But what I'm
That's
saying
like,
is, it's not even about who's suffering the most. It's about the scale of suffering that exists in Africa with African people in comparison to what people are dealing with here. It's not even on the same. It's not even on the same. It's not in the same realm of reality. It's not in the same realm of reality. You cannot argue. And on top of that, not only do you have extreme poverty, you have high death rates. Like half of our family just was wiped out last year and the year before because the healthcare system is terrible. So there's no comparison in terms of the scale and what it is like for the vast majority of Africans in Africa. Like you can't compare you can't compare that to Skid Row here in the United States. Like the amount of poverty, the scale of poverty, the way that people are suffering is the case for many more Africans in Africa than it is the case for people here.
I
in
mean,
the
how
United
many
States.
Americans want to relocate to Africa? Like, migrate to Africa?
I do eventually.
Trust me, Africans are entering the Mediterranean and they can't even swim just to get to Europe. You know, that's how you know the poverty is real. You know,
Malaria kills
Like,
more people in
as bad as-
Africa
as
than
bad as
AIDS.
America-
But I would say this. I think a lot of this stuff
No.
can be avoided easily.
Yeah, you know what I'm
It's
saying?
we're not talking about what would be. We're talking about what is. We're
What-
talking
what
about
I'm
what
saying
is.
is, like, how
So
many
malaria
African
kills
Americans-
more people in Africa than AIDS or any other disease. We're talking about a mosquito. We're not talking about like, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about a mosquito.
Also, how many African Americans or ADOS migrate to Mexico?
Why? Why would they go to Mexico?
Exactly, because
Exactly,
the
because of
suffering here.
suffering.
Wait, let me finish.
No.
The suffering here.
No.
Wait,
It's
let
not-
me
no,
finish.
it's not- okay.
The suffering here
Uh-huh.
is not as bad as the suffering in Mexico. Just Mexico next door.
No, I'm gonna tell you. The
And they
reason
know.
why. No, the reason why ADOS don't want to go to Mexico because they know the blood equity they have here in America that's owed to them.
They have it too in Mexico. I mean, black people are owed money everywhere. If you're going to go to that way, we are owed money everywhere in this world. Every nation owes us money.
True.
Exactly. If we're going to go
absolutely.
that way, everybody owes us something.
True.
So don't say it's because they don't owe you money in Mexico, you don't want to go there.
No.
They owe you money there too. They owe you money everywhere. But we just choose to collect the American one. If that's what we're after. Still, it is not enough reason not to connect to the larger struggle of African emancipation as motherland people.
And let's talk about
Because-
unemployment rate. Let's talk about life expectancy. Let's talk about infant mortality. Let's talk about women's mortality in the process of childbirth. Let's talk
Exactly.
about access to healthcare. Let's talk about starvation, hunger. All of those things are huge scale in Africa for a large number of
And Skid
people.
Row is only one place in America.
I'm one generation away from people who had to fill their mouth at a spigot every day just to be able to eat. So this idea that Skid Row, I mean, it's actually insulting, really, to think about. It's insulting for people to downplay the power of oppression in Africa and the fact that it comes from an elite class of people. So
in cahoots with
who are in
supremacists.
cahoots with white supremacists, and not only do they have to suffer the physical manifestations, i.e. the hunger, the life expectancy and all the rest of that, but people deal with their lives as if they're chickens. So if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, you will disappear. That's it. There's not going to be any news coverage. There's not going to be any march. There's not going to be any protest. There's not going to be anything about you. You're just gone.
The thing is that your family
And this
doesn't know what
happens
happened to
all
you.
the time. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's normal. It's normal. Look at all the countries in West Africa, and I'm just talking about West Africa, that have undergone civil strife in the last 20 years.
Everyone except Nigeria.
So what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
I'm Senegal.
You know, like my family is Sierra Leonean. I have cousins who had to sleep under a bed for the duration of the Civil War. Who's doing that here in the United States?
I'm saying, but we dealt with that over time and put in blood equity, so we didn't have to deal with it
Yeah,
anymore.
we've been dealing with it. We didn't stop.
It never stopped in Africa.
In Africa, it didn't
It
stop.
never stopped. It never stopped.
It doesn't stop.
So from the time of the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade
Right.
till today, Africans are still dealing with that. It's just in blackface, like he's talking about.
And also, another thing about Africa as well is that most people forget to put into perspective that a whole generation of leadership was wiped out. Lumumba, Nkrumah, Bembela, Sekou Touré, Sankara, you know, Steve Biko, you know.
They're coming from a
And just the way, you know, like
Haile Selassie.
Selassie,
They got him
it's
at the end.
contestable, you know, to talk about him is okay. He's a monarch. I don't like to praise or.
I understand.
I'm not talking about a monarch, but let me go back to what I'm saying. You know, like we always forget to understand. Oh, I lost what I was gonna say just now. Yeah, that not only does white supremacy look to dismantle black leadership, they also look to replace black leadership, to strengthen black leadership that is detrimental to black people. So that's why the Black Panthers could have been destroyed, but black gangs are still left to thrive. Mm-hmm. The outright murders of people like Fred Hampton, many Black Panther leaders to weaken the system. That same tactics can be used against these drug dealers and gangsters, and nobody would care. Mm-hmm. Nobody would march on the streets, but they don't do that. The cops act like they don't know where the stash house is. But every little child in the fucking hood knows where the stash house is. But the cops don't know.
The cops know.
And when they know, they start saying they need all this paperwork and reason and pay to go and do their jobs. But no, when they want to kill an innocent black kid that is unarmed, they don't think about paperwork and all that kind of things there. Mm-hmm. Right? So we also have to look in Africa, in the African American society, why some leaders were dealt with the way they were and why others were left to thrive and even have federal government contracts to back them, even though they are anti-American, e.g. the Nation of Islam.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Louis Farrakhan.
Okay.
Hello? I know, I'll call you back. Or come to my room. Come to my room. You're killing my... Come to my room. What if you didn't have mobile phones? This mobile phone has made everybody lazy. Remember when we didn't have these things? Everybody, you have to go where you gotta go. And when you want to go and see your friend in his house, you go with the Lord. You can't call him. You don't know where he is. You just go, you're like, he's gonna be home. You will him to be home. You will him that he's home. Anyway. So as I was saying, so why are these toxic messages allowed to thrive in our society? Islam oppresses black people.
True.
There's no salvation for black people in Islam, especially black women. You understand what I'm saying? Someone like Karenga and his new slaves or whatever they used to call themselves, the number one antagonist of the Black Panther, and they've now we know that they have some federal help. Mr. Kwanzaa,
Oh, yeah, the
Mellow Korean.
LA.
Yeah, Karenga. I know what I'm
Yeah, we
talking
know
about.
about that
man.
event in
San
UCLA.
Diego.
UCLA.
I know what I'm talking about.
Also,
For the Panthers, UCLA. Yeah.
So I know what I'm talking about. We have to also see that aspect. We have them in Africa. We have Mandela. Allowed to thrive, came out of prison at 71, was able to amass $100 million in 20 years at 71. You know, what's going on? Where did you work? What's your job, bro? So many leaders like that in all over Africa. Mobutu Sese Seko, Obasanjo. What's this guy in Algeria? What's the name of their head of state?
Gaddafi.
No.
Algeria.
In Algeria,
Libya.
not Libya. You know, before they took out Saddam Hussein, you know, so people that have done irreparable damage to our continent, that have been propped up for decades by America, saying, "Oh, black people need strong armed government." You understand? America and Europe, in cahoots with criminals in Africa, would topple elected governments, as they are doing in Venezuela today. Democratic governments that people have voted for. You tell me because the election was not free and fair. Is the American election free and fair? Hillary won the popular vote. Is she president? You have your electoral college. Nobody can dispute it.
Yeah, but
she won the popular vote.
Yeah, but
But they have electoral college. So fine, it's your system. It's your system.
But my thing is with the Clinton and Trump thing, it was the other way around. They wouldn't be complaining, if that makes sense.
Anybody that loses any side complains. You complain, that's what you do. I'm just saying. Okay, how about Bush and Gore?
Okay, but that was
that a
suspect.
free and fair
that was
election?
suspect. Okay, that one was suspect.
Was that a free and fair election?
That one was suspect. Yeah. Okay, I agree with that one.
How many people came to bomb America or declared it? God declared himself president. I mean, so the list is endless about the uneven, and I know not uneven, but the injustice that is used to relate with motherland people in this system. Always first to the benefit of Europe and America. We as the people, or our continent as an entity, is not even in the consideration during discussion. We are all collateral. Even our continent is collateral damage. One day I was driving my car on a bridge in Lagos and I saw a ship just docked in the middle of our ocean, just dumping wherever it was, just like sludge, just like dumping it in our seas, you know. So this is black people under capitalism. So we also have to understand why some people are left to thrive, and so we have real leadership deficiency. Every leader that is prominent in Africa or in America that represents African people, the only thing they care about is political correctness. How not to what's the word? Rock the boat. They are more concerned about where your pants are, how high your pant is, than your ability to access social housing or welfare. You know, they are all mouthpiece of the liberals. Everybody wants us to concentrate on the overt racism of Trump, while the institutional racism of American housing is ignored. The same way black people are homeless in America is the same way we are homeless in Africa, man.
I've seen more homeless people over here.
No, what are you saying?
Me personally, I've seen more.
There are more homeless people in my neighborhood alone than the whole of America.
Okay.
I
agree to disagree. Agree.
Come to Ikeja, let's go at night.
I've been in Ikeja.
Yeah, you know, because African people, we have this fake, you know, this false pride, this false pride that, you know, nobody really wants to let you know their situation. The homeless guy, you don't go bath, you bath in the morning, you will not dress like the homeless person here. You know, like you just know he's homeless, pushing his cart. You know, come to Nigeria, let me show you enough homeless people.
I'll be there next month. I'll be back. Be my 5th time.
Let me show you Lagos. I think all the people you've been following that government boys.
I stay at your.
Yeah, but you know, even if you stay in my house, you know, I'm staying. As I'm saying to you, you know, you have to know. You know, so the same way, even if, as I said, I don't want to do who is suffering the most
Okay,
competition.
okay, right. Who's
That
the
doesn't
best
matter
at the
to
bottom
me.
of the slave ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
But I know that the way housing discriminates against black people in America, and we are the highest demographic of homeless people in Europe and America, is the same way we are all homeless in Africa. So nobody's confronting the institutional racism. Liberals and African American and African leaders don't talk about institutional racism. That keeps us, constantly oppressed. That empowers the individual racists. So we have to be the ones to push our own narrative. The things that are really done against us has to be our own call to arms, if I could put it that way. We can't continue to use the narrative of our oppressors to understand our oppression. It's only our oppression that we can understand. We don't understand the narrative of the oppressors. As Franz Fanon also said, I like to quote him a lot because he was a man that actually had some really interesting things that resonated with me. He says, the moment you stop becoming the moment you decide to become the enemy of your oppressor is the moment you stop being his victim. But you see, a lot of black people want to access whiteness so much, they are afraid to be the enemy of their oppressor. Because they want to wear these expensive things, they want to go on these expensive trips, they want to live this nice life. They love, that's why all the black elites,
7% battery.
that's why all the black elites can only express their wealth through luxury.
6.
And they want us to believe that only luxury is the only way to express wealth.
Okay.
But luxury is not the only way to express wealth, right?
Right.
Exactly. So why are we only seeing luxury as in our own communities as an why is wealth only expressed as luxury? From all the rich African Americans, the Will Smiths to the Jay-Z's to everybody, and the rich Otedolas and Dangotes and whatever you have in Africa. You understand? They have their little extractive service industry that's bringing them their money, and the only way they express that to us is by their luxurious lifestyle. And most of them really talk down on us. So what are we doing? We need to eject ourselves from that narrative and find the narrative that suits our freedom. Not trying to make sense of the narrative of our oppressor, and reason with him, from a place of oppression. Nah, it's not done that way. We have to find a way from our own position internally, to succeed. It's very important that we exclude the narrative of the elites from this discussion. It's very important.
It's a good discussion.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
No worries. But so you go to New York, tell us, shout everybody, shout out where people can contact you and
okay, everybody.
Next
website.
dates where you're going to and
Okay, we're
New
doing
York.
New York on the 19th of February. We're in that's in 2 days. Where are we again? We're in we are Detroit. We are in DC. Check out the dates on my website seunkuti.net. You can check out all the dates. I don't remember them. I try not to remember my dates. I just go. I don't want to look at how much work I have to do because so I'm just like, we have a show today, let's go. So for me that is easier that way. But check it out. Big Bird. Like Sesame Street. Big Bird Kuti. That's my Instagram handle. If you want to check it out. At Real Seun Kuti on Twitter. Seun Kuti on Facebook and all of that. So yeah, check it out. I put out some interesting things too,
cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I don't want anybody in America to feel like, Africans are not, don't see you as their brothers. That is an elite, those are the elites of Africa that thrive off our division and make profit of our oppression. So we can't use their attitude to judge the majority of black people who love